Right now, not last year, not a decade ago, but this morning, March 4th, 2026, a chunk of California is gone. Not eroding, not retreating, collapsing. Whole cliff faces the size of football fields are dropping straight into the Pacific Ocean, taking homes, roads, and people's entire lives with them. And here's the part that should make you furious. The government knew. They had the reports, they had the data, they had the warnings, filed, stamped, and distributed to 12 different agencies. And they did absolutely nothing. Let's go back to January 9th, 2026. 5:47 in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. Coastal monitoring sensors along the Pacifica Bluffs north of San Francisco start picking up ground movement that exceeds every safety threshold in the system. Engineers reviewing the data describe readings that, in their words, should not be possible for a coastline rated as stable just 18 months earlier. 6:15 in the morning, the first collapse. A 230-foot section of cliff face separating a residential neighborhood from the Pacific Ocean simply ceases to exist. Residents describe the sound as a low, rolling thunder that did not stop. 6:55 in the morning, the second collapse. 1.4 miles south. 7:30, a third. By 9 in the morning, California Geological Survey teams are on the ground, confirming what no one wants to say out loud. This is not an isolated event. This is systematic. 12 distinct failure zones. 19 miles of coastline. Emergency closures. Evacuation orders. And inside a government filing cabinet, somewhere, the reports that predicted every single moment of this are sitting exactly where they were left. Unread, unactioned, ignored. Here is something most people do not know about California's coastline. Those cliffs do not look like they are about to fall. They look like rock, solid, ancient, permanent rock. But they are not. What you are actually looking at is ancient marine terrace deposits, layers of sandstone, mudstone, and clay compressed over hundreds of thousands of years. And the problem with clay is what water does to it. Dr. Patricia Navarro, lead coastal geologist with the United States Geological Survey and a 20-year veteran of studying this exact coastline, explains it this way. Water infiltrates the upper layers during wet seasons. It saturates the clay-rich sediment below. That saturated material loses cohesion. It becomes, in her words, essentially a lubricant between the stable rock above and the failing foundation below. The cliff does not erode from the outside in. It collapses from the inside out. Now here is where the numbers get alarming. Saturation levels across the affected corridor right now are measuring 380% above normal stability thresholds. Sea level rise is increasing wave energy at the base of the bluffs by 3.4 millimeters per year above historical averages. Incoming atmospheric river systems are delivering rainfall intensities that these terrace deposits were never geologically designed to absorb. The coastline did not suddenly get weak. It has been quietly failing for years. The surface just held its shape long enough to be mistaken for strength. Now let's talk about what this actually means for real people. Elena Vasquez is 63 years old. She raised 3 children in a Pacifica bungalow 40 feet from a cliff edge that city planners consistently told her was stable and safe. She lived in that house for 31 years. On January 9th, she is standing at her kitchen window when her backyard disappears, Not over weeks, not over days, in 11 minutes. Her home is condemned by 9 in the morning. She leaves with 2 bags and her dog. She tells the emergency responder walking her out that she never would have bought that house if she had known what they knew. The responder had no answer for her. Now, scale that story by 4,000. That is how many residents along the 19-mile collapse corridor received mandatory evacuation orders within 72 hours. 11 oceanfront properties were condemned outright. 7 hotels suspended operations indefinitely. Emergency shelter facilities in Daly City and South San Francisco hit 170% of their designed capacity before the first week was over. 170%. That means people are sleeping in hallways, in parking lots, in community centers not built to hold them, because the ground they were told was safe stopped being safe overnight. Here is the part that is going to make you angry. This was not a surprise. Not to the scientists, not to the agencies, not to the people whose job it was to protect those 4,000 evacuated residents. 1998. The United States Geological Survey files a coastal hazard report flagging the Pacifica Bluff system as showing accelerated erosion rates inconsistent with long-term historical averages. The report recommends immediate installation of a comprehensive sensor network and a full geological reassessment of residential zoning within 300 feet of the cliff edge. The recommendation is acknowledged. The sensors are never installed. 2009. An independent geological firm hired by Pacifica city planners submits findings that describe significant subsurface void development along a 14-mile coastal segment, and the report records that language directly. That report is classified as preliminary. No follow-up study is ever commissioned. 2019. A California Coastal Commission. Internal memo documents that bluff retreat rates along the northern San Mateo County coastline have increased by 62% since 2010. That memo is distributed to 12 agency departments. It triggers 0 policy changes. 0. 2023. A Stanford University research team publishes findings showing that atmospheric river frequency and intensity have permanently shifted baseline saturation levels across coastal California bluff systems. They project a 40% increase in major bluff failure events within 5 years. They were right. They were just 2 years early. Officials did not miss these red flags. The red flags were handed to them in writing, with recommendations attached. The question is not why the warnings were missed. The question is why the warnings were not enough. And here is why this is not over. The National Weather Service is currently tracking 3 additional atmospheric river systems approaching the California coast. Moisture loads measure 1,400 kilograms per meter per second. For context, a normal winter system rarely exceeds 500 kilograms per meter per second. This is nearly 3 times that. The already saturated bluffs cannot absorb another drop. Every inch of rainfall from here becomes runoff. Every runoff event pushes these formations further past their limits. United States Geological Survey emergency survey teams deployed to 14 additional high-risk coastal segments within 48 hours of the initial collapse. Preliminary assessments identify 6 locations showing active subsurface void development. 9 more sections are flagged with imminent failure indicators. Cal OES, California. Office of Emergency Services has activated its highest operational posture. And the geological reality that nobody in an official capacity wants to say publicly is already circulating in every briefing room on this coastline. The same marine terrace deposits sitting under communities in Bolinas, Marin, Santa Cruz, and San Clemente. The same geology, the same saturation conditions, the same decades of underinvestment in monitoring. The only difference between those communities and Pacifica right now is timing. The California coastline that existed for all of the 20th century may not survive this one. The bluffs that generations of families built their lives against were never as permanent as they appeared. The science knew it. The reports documented it. The warnings traveled up the chain and then stopped. Now the chain has broken, the cliff has fallen, and Elena Vasquez is sleeping in a shelter 40 miles from the home she was told was safe. The ground is still moving. The next atmospheric river is still coming. And the question of who knew what, and when they knew it, is only just beginning to be asked.